Hi everyone, if you're over 50 and you're dreaming of travelling, now may be the perfect time to start travelling for months at a time. Travelling long term is becoming more popular, and if you're over 50, this may be the perfect choice for you, not only financially but also emotionally. So if you'd like to see what long-term travel looks like and whether it's right for you, we're going to share with you our experiences about turning travel into a lifestyle.
We're Tanya and Martin. We travel the world going to all the places we've always dreamed of visiting.
We hope our adventures will inspire yours.
Over the past year, we've moved away from your typical 2-week vacation style of traveling to trying to really incorporate travel as part of our lifestyle. We started out with a couple 1-month long trips, one to Spain and one to France. And from there, we moved on to 2-month long trips. We are now going to be doing a 3-month long trip this September when we take a repositioning cruise off to Japan, then visit Hong Kong, Southeast Asia, and then Bali.
So we're changing the traditional vacation into a travel lifestyle, and we're still in that process. So if you're interested in this, we'll be sharing with you what we've learned so far and some of the things that you may want to consider. So let's start with what the traditional vacation would look like.
So before long-term travel, we would book through an online site or through a travel agent, and it was really easy to do. They would take care of everything. They would take care of ground transportation. They'd pick us up from the airport. They had our full itinerary all planned for us. All we had to do was show up. We thought that this was the perfect way to travel, easy, and that, 10 to 12 days was long enough.
But what we found is that this was just way too fast. We had to take pictures just so as we know where we'd been. Sometimes we would go into a town or a village to explore a cathedral or monastery and never get to explore the surrounding area.
We just weren't there long enough to understand the significance of the landmark, why it was built, what it meant to the locals that lived there. Before we knew it, we were back on the bus and moving on to the next site.
That was just not working for us, so I started to think about taking longer vacations. If you're solo, then this is an easy process, but if you're a couple, that meant getting both of us committed to the same idea. So let's see how that process worked for us, because it's probably going to be similar for you. Committing to long-term travel. So Tanya, what did you think when I first proposed about doing a 1-month trip?
1 month. Well, actually, the first time Martin approached me, he asked me what I thought of a 3-month long trip. And my immediate reaction was, nope, no way. And I walked out of the room. So about a month later, Martin approached me again. And he asked me what I thought of doing a 1-month long trip. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Really? Like, what the heck are we going to be doing for 30 days? I mean, I was flabbergasted, really. I just thought that's such a ridiculously long time to be away from our house, our kids, the backyard. So I just thought, what is he thinking? I mean, how can we even possibly afford to be gone for a whole month? I mean, the 12-day trip that we took was crazy expensive. How are we going to go for a month? So when we first started planning the trip, Martin explained to me that he had done some research and that this whole month-long trip was actually going to cost less than the 12-day trip that we had taken the year before. So Martin suggested that we only go to 4 cities. And I was like, what? We're going to go all the way to Spain for a month and we're only going to visit 4 cities? Like, what about northern Spain? We're not even going to northern Spain? Let's do 7 or 8 cities, or maybe 10. And Martin kept saying, no, that's just too fast. It's too exhausting. He was saying, we need some leisure time to relax, read a book, I'm thinking, read a book? We're on vacation.
Vacation's the perfect time to read a book.
Well, I found out later that's true, but I didn't realize it at the time. So we finally agreed on 6 cities, and by the time we had come up with an itinerary, we had 5 cities that we were going to be visiting in Spain.
And so what did you think about that first 1 month trip?
Well, when we first started the trip, I just couldn't imagine how this was going to work. I just kept, a day would go by and I'd be thinking, whoa, we still have pretty much 30 more days to go. And then before I knew it, I was saying, well, wow, we still have 2 weeks left. And then next thing I knew, we bumped into a couple who gave us a great tip on a full day excursion. And so I went online to book it, and I looked at the calendar and I just sort of freaked because we only had 5 days left of our 30-day vacation. And you know that feeling when you get home from vacation and you walk through the front door and you just sigh this sense of relief, like, oh, it's so good to be home. Well, this was the first time ever that we walked through the front door and I was actually sad because I still wanted to be in Spain. So we're retired now, but in our travels, we've met quite a few people who are in their 50s and early 60s who are doing long-term travel and even full-time travel.
So if you're in your early 60s and close to collecting that pension, you may already have enough money to take that early retirement and start traveling. You've probably been planning for a retired life in the United States or the UK, which are very expensive countries to live in. There are many other countries that you can go to that are much cheaper to live in month to month. Retiring early may sound scary, but if you look over your finances and see what the costs are in other countries, you may find that the math works.
Some people that we've met have either sold their homes or rent their house out. And we've also known some people who have actually sold the home that they brought their family up in and have traded it in for a much smaller apartment or condo, thereby lowering their monthly costs.
So if you bought your family home 20 or 30 years ago, you probably have enough equity in that house now to downsize and take the additional money and use it for traveling. If you're in your early 50s, then you're probably going to have to make changes which are a little bit more outside your comfort zone. It's going to be a little bit longer before that pension comes in. But you can supplement your income by doing some online work. A lot of companies these days allow you to do remote work, and we've seen people during our travels that are working on cruise ships or in the hotel or their Airbnb. So if you can get some online income, there's no reason why you can't travel the world at the same time. When you start traveling long term, it's very important to try and connect with a travel community. We recently went on a trip with a travel community, and you learn so much from other people who are also traveling long term or even full time. So there are many travel communities that you can join, and we linked the one that we joined down in the description, and it's called Grounded Life Travel.
I guess I should start with how I felt when we first joined the community, and we actually went on a community cruise to Mexico. So when I met other members, we were just having a really pleasant time, and I was asked constantly, what are your travel plans? What do you want to do? And my response was, well, this is really Martin's thing. I'm just along for the ride. Well, during this cruise, I learned so much about traveling and this whole long-term mindset of long-term travel that by the end of the week, I just did a 180. I was completely sold. I couldn't believe how much I had learned in that 1 week's time. And so I felt like I was really ready to challenge going on a longer trip. So the next trip that we planned was actually a 2-month-long trip where we went to Germany and the Algarve for a total of 2 months. And while we were on the trip, we even talked about coming back and selling the house, selling the car, and just traveling full time.
So we haven't got to the point of selling the house yet, but we wouldn't dismiss that in the future. So this last year we've been working on shifting from a vacation mode into a lifestyle mode. We're staying longer at each place, and we're only scheduling one activity per day, with days in between to just explore the local area or just do nothing at all. We've gotten better at just sitting at cafes for a couple of hours, reading our books, without feeling that we need to rush off and do something.
This was a big adjustment for me. I felt like we needed to eat and move on to the next activity. So Martin would remind me that I needed to slow down and really embrace the European way of
European dining lifestyle.
Yes. Which took me a whole month to finally get to the point where I sort of felt like I was embracing it.
Yeah, I kept telling her to relax and enjoy the surroundings. Like we didn't have to order all of the tapas all at once. We could get a pitcher of sangria, spend an hour finishing that off, and then maybe order some more tapas.
And that's what we did. And at first I felt guilty because we were sitting there for hours at a time.
When there's all these new places to see.
And when I finally sort of embraced that feeling, I remember thinking, okay, we've been at this bar for a really long time. We've had dinner, we've had a couple drinks. I'm doing really good. And we get outside and we still see the family that got there just before we did. And they're just still hanging out.
They're still hanging out. They're still there.
So once you hit your 50s and beyond, health really becomes a primary issue. If you've always dreamed of seeing the world, but you're waiting until you retire, the reality is there's a chance that you may not have the energy or the health or the stamina to be able to enjoy it.
So that's why we suggest that you make travel part of your lifestyle now. Also, once you start traveling more, you may realize that your home country may not be the best country to live in. There are plenty of other places in the world with a good quality of life and reasonable healthcare costs. But you never know unless you go and explore different locations while you're younger to see where it is you may want to end up in your later years. So let's talk now about family and relationships. I think now that we actually spend more time with our kids than we did before we started traveling. Our kids are adults and they have their own lives. And even though they live in the same area that we do, we would only end up seeing them for birthdays or holidays.
So now when we come back from a trip, we invite the family over and we have like a theme night. You know, I'll cook something that we had while we were on the trip and, you know, show videos of our travels, look at photos. And it's just really nice. Everyone really enjoys it because we get to share a little bit of our travels with our family.
So I think you'll find also that when you start traveling for longer periods, that you may end up actually spending more time with your family than you do right now. Also, we've learned about each other's preferences. Like when we're traveling, Tanya really likes to go into art museums, which I'm generally not quite as interested in. So what I'll do is I'll go for a walk and I'll explore the local area. Later on we'll kind of come back together and she'll tell me about the art pieces that she was really impressed with. And I'll tell her about other locations that I've discovered that that we may want to go back to, that she may enjoy. So when you're traveling together, you'll learn how to travel so both of you get the most out of the experience. If it's not working for the both of you, then you really haven't adjusted to the travel lifestyle. On our first long trip, we took some very large suitcases. We were lugging these suitcases on and off the trains in Spain. And when we got home, we realized that there were so many things in those suitcases that we didn't even use.
So over the next couple trips, we started to figure out what items we could actually leave behind rather than what we should take. We're now at the point where we each take a 20-inch carry-on suitcase and one personal item.
We have a video coming up which shows you how we pack for long trips. So please subscribe to catch that one. You'll find out how we pack up in only 15 minutes as we move from one place to the next.
We also have videos coming up on how to plan and budget for your trips And we also will have a video coming up on the 5 strategies of reducing your stress while you travel.
If you've transitioned to a life of long-term travel, we'd love to know about it down in the comments, and let us know how it has changed your outlook on life.
We hope you found this video helpful for your own travels, and we'll see you in the next video.